Amit sir, now you would be able to share the PPT. I guess earlier you were not having the access.
Let me try because the sharing option still is disabled.
I have given you the access. Maybe just let me change then. Can you please try again?
Yeah, it's still deactivated. So
Now, if it's possible.
let's log in again. See, because it's still deactivated.
Mr. Amit got disconnected, I think.
Harkirat? Harkirat? Mr. Bhatt has joined as an attendee. Please make him panelist.
Some issue in joining through the link, so I have told him about some alternative ways. So maybe within a couple of minutes he can join.
Okay. And first, Chaturvedi will join at 6:50.
Yes, as per the schedule. I think he has joined.
Yeah, he has joined.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we
sir.
can hear you, Amit.
Yeah, but unfortunately, again, my screen sharing is disabled.
Mhm.
Oh. Can you please try again? I've set some accesses.
Should I then maybe share?
Yeah, I think it will be good if you can send it by mail.
I'll do that.
Harkirat, is there an option of making Mr. Bhatt as a presenter?
Yes, I have made him the presenter already. Like he has the presenter access. So maybe if it's not working, you can send your PPT to me and I will share it. Then you can coordinate accordingly. Or maybe I can also give you some sharing access also, wherein you can according to that.
So I've shared my PPT.
Yes, yes.
I've emailed also. So yeah, we can
Okay,
start.
just let me share my screen then. Okay, so can you all see my screen?
It's visible, Harkirat.
Okay, sure. So I can just let me do it in full screen mode. Okay. So Amit sir, you can now get start. Just let me know when you want to shift the slide. I will do it for you.
So to start, Harkirat, let me extend a warm welcome to Mr. Amit Bhatt, who is the speaker for today's valedictory session of our Road Safety Month at IIT Roorkee. NSS IIT Roorkee was very active in celebrating and organizing different activities to spread awareness. And in the valedictory session, we are really grateful to Mr. Amit Bhatt for accepting our invitation and who has agreed to deliver a talk on safe systems approach to road safety. He has been very active in the road safety domain and very concerned with respect to the vulnerable road users in urban scenarios. Without taking much time, I once again extend warm greetings on behalf of IIT Roorkee and on my behalf. And all of us would love to hear from him, his experiences and his thought process with respect to these safe systems approach. Thank you, Amit.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dr. Parida. And apologies for the technology trouble, but hopefully this should be smooth. So basically,
This is from our side.
So I don't know whether it's your side or my side or something else. But the point I was trying to make was that as we are towards the fag end of the road safety month, probably the last day of the road safety month, the question is, why is the road safety, so why we are so unsafe on our roads? Have we really understood the magnitude of the problem? Second, what is it that we are doing which is not really giving us the result? And third, how can we go about kind of changing this whole paradigm that we are losing so many lives on our roads? So if you can go to the next slide. So basically, the point was that about 1.35 million people lose their lives worldwide. And somehow it's a huge number, but let me give a perspective to what this means. So that's about 1,583 jumbo jets crashing, or 380 Titanic sinking, or 17 Maracana stadiums collapsing. Now, we know what happened when few jumbo jets crashed during the 9/11. It really changed the way security, especially security around air travel, is monitored. Now we have a situation, we have close to 1,600 jumbo jets crashing every year, but somehow things are not changing on ground. We know what the Titanic did, and we still hear the stories of Titanic, but we hardly have any mainstream conversation around road safety. Now, so that's one. I think the statistics is one side, but the other side is half of the people who get killed worldwide are either pedestrians or cyclists or two-wheel users. And this is something which we have to be very careful about, because a lot of time road safety conversation revolves around kind of drunken driving, revolves around seat belts. But we have to understand the most vulnerable section in our society is the pedestrian, cyclist, and the two-wheel user. We also need to remember that it's the number one cause of death for young and children and young adults who are between the age of 5 and 29. So it's basically the future of our country is severely at risk because of the road traffic crashes. We are losing about 3% of our GDP due to crashes. But the most starting point is 3% of these global deaths happen in low and middle income countries. And that is something which we have to basically keep in mind. Now, if you go to the next slide, you will see the situation is really stuck in Asia. So almost every second death in the world happens in Asia and the Pacific region. And while globally the death rates have coming down in some of the developed countries, situation is Asia is actually on the other side. And especially if you look at the Southeast Asia, which is the graph on the right hand side, which is going up, is the traffic fatality scenario in Southeast Asia. And India being part of it, we know the situation is pretty grim. And again, if you look at the most vulnerable section in Asia, it's again the pedestrians, the cyclist, and the two-wheeler user, which are almost 55% of the total fatalities that happen in the Asia Pacific region. Now, let's go to the next slide and look at some statistics from India. And most of you would be aware of it, but just to kind of reiterate the magnitude of the problem. One, I think the roads traffic death have been rising. When I did my postgrad from School of Planning and Architecture, and my first assignment was to work on National Road Safety Policy way back in 2002. At that time, we were losing about 70 odd thousand lives a year. And 18, 19 years later, the only thing that has changed on our road is that 70,000 has become 1,50,000. So the numbers have been rising. While 2020 may show some dip because of the COVID, but again, as the economy is recovering, rightly recovering, we might see a much higher figure in 2021 if we don't do things which are needed to kind of reduce the road traffic fatality scenario. And if you look at, maybe it's not very clear, but a small graph on your right, it basically shows countries which have high fatality rate, which is deaths per 1 lakh population. And if you look at India, it's almost 11. And countries which are higher than us are Iran, which is 20, Russian Federation, which is 14. And then you have countries like Morocco, which are almost like us, and US, which is just a shade above their time. So it is a very, very grim scenario. Now let's come to the next slide. What you will realize is that, in fact, yes, this slide. So in fact, what you will realize is the fact that road traffic death is just a part of it. The actual magnitude of the impact is much larger than the person dying on road. So for example, the research from South Korea, and then all of us are researchers here, show that a third of the road traffic crash victim experienced job loss due to disability. So we are looking at an angle of poverty coming in. While we know that almost 3/4 of the deaths that happen are men, but we have to understand that there is a very strong gender angle when it comes to road traffic safety. The reason why I'm saying it's very important is that women bear the brunt of caregiving, especially in the post-crash scenario, let's say when someone gets severely injured. Now, this caregiving, and the bulk of it is done by women in our countries, directly impacts their return to livelihood as well as their propensity to get income back. So we are looking at gender impact of road traffic safety. Third, there is a very strong linkage to sustainability. And again, some research from Philippines shows that, and this is also pretty common sense as well, that the mode that you choose has a direct impact on the perception of safety. And we see in our cities, people don't like to walk and cycle, even if they are environmentally conscious or health conscious, because they fear about their safety. And fourth important point, which is very interesting for us to understand, is that road safety actually hampers the development of a nation. So 7% to 22% increase in GDP per capita over 24 years can be achieved through sustainable reduction in road traffic injuries, because road traffic injuries have economic impact. And let us say tomorrow, if there are no traffic injuries, a lot of these investment which are going into kind of mitigating these injuries can be used for the economic development of the nation. Now, if you click one more time on this slide, you will see that August of this last year, the United Nations General Assembly declared a second decade of action, where they said we have to reduce road traffic death by 50% by 2030. And after this, many banks, including Asian Development Bank, World Bank, and other development banks, joined together saying that we will support the next decade of action. And in fact, this is only the kind of the outcome. The genesis of this problem goes long back, where the Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 3.6, talked about halving deaths by 2020. And we know it has not halved. In fact, the deaths have only gone up or maybe stabilized. But the fact is, there is a global community, a global consensus that we have to reduce violence on our road. Now, what was really interesting is that while the goal 3.6 was not achieved, people were really saying that, is it really achievable? Can you really bring down road traffic deaths? Now, what was really interesting was the fact that European Union countries were able to almost halve their death, not in a 10-year period or 20-year period, but in a 6-year period, from 2011 to 2016, following safe systems or Vision Zero approach. So it is doable, provided we follow the right methodology of kind of treating this problem. Now, if you go to the next slide, you will realize what exactly is safe systems. Now, safe systems is a modern way of addressing road traffic safety. It has some core principles, which I will be talking about later in the slides. It also has principles like humans make error, human beings are vulnerable to injuries, responsibility is shared, no death or serious injury is acceptable, and road safety has to be proactive versus reactive. Then it has some core elements like economic planning, analysis, priorities and planning, monitoring and evaluation, governance and management, as well as strong targets and data. Now, we have to understand that these elements also lead to some action areas. So we have to work on 8 action areas. And again, that we'll be talking about slightly later. Now, before we get into, let's understand the difference between the safe systems approach and the traditional approach of road safety. So if you go to the next slide, you will see that what is traditional approach to safe safety. So traditional approach to road safety revolves around the philosophy that you are responsible for your safety, which means bad road behavior. So you'll hear the word bad driver, reckless driving, distracted pedestrians. A lot of it revolves around how do you educate that driver to become safe driver. Now, if you go to the next slide, you will realize that this approach of road safety has not been working, and therefore there was an emergence of the safe systems approach. And it is basically a paradigm change from the traditional approach to road safety. In the next slide, you will see what is that difference. Now, let's understand the problem. Traditional approach versus the Vision Zero or safe systems approach. Now, what is the problem? Traditional approach focuses on reducing accidents, but the safe systems approach focuses on reducing fatalities and serious injuries. That's one. Now, the cause of the problem. The traditional approach, the cause of the problem are human factors, but the Vision Zero approach actually says just the opposite. It says human beings will make mistakes and human beings are fragile. In terms of responsibility, the traditional approach talks about individual road users have their own responsibility to be safe. But the Vision Zero approach or safe systems approach says it's a systemic problem. And so we have to look at the system designers who are also part of creating safe systems. The traditional approach believes that people don't want road safety, but the Vision Zero approach believes people want safety. And the traditional approach always focuses on an optimal number of injuries and fatalities. So, for example, 10% reduction, 5% reduction. But the Vision Zero approach says no single death or serious injury is acceptable. And our vision and mission should be to eliminate all. Now, we may not achieve this today, tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years, but eventually we will achieve. And that's the big disconnect or change between the Vision Zero and the safe systems approach. Now, if you go to the next slide, you will see this whole thing started from Sweden. Over the years, Sweden has seen a decline in road traffic deaths, which is the yellow worm, while the traffic growth rates have increased. So with increasing traffic, increasing vehicle ownership, the death rates have come down. Next slide. And it's not only Sweden, but many cities around the world have adopted this philosophy. And in fact, Haryana a couple of years back adopted the Vision Zero approach in India for the first time, called Haryana Vision Zero, with remarkable impact on ground. Next slide. So let's understand the principle in detail. What exactly is the safe systems approach? Right? So let's look at the first principle, which is the next slide you will see. Human beings make error. Now, this is the slide which talks about that if a car hits a pedestrian at 30 km/h, it's like falling from the one-storied building, which means you will probably break few bones, but you will survive. If the same car hits a pedestrian at 50 km/h, which is the legal limit in most of our cities, it's like falling from a 3-storied building. The chances of survival are only 10%. So the question is, do you penalize someone with a death penalty in case this happens? And then, are we designing cities which can save pedestrians, or are we designing spaces which will kill pedestrians? Because human beings will make error. Next, the other philosophy is that human beings are vulnerable to injuries. We cannot absorb the momentum of a vehicle, a car, or a minivan or a bus when it hits us. Our bodies cannot absorb these forces. So we have to preserve our bodies. One way to do is to have everyone wearing the Iron Man suit, which is not possible. So question is, how can you make sure that this doesn't happen? Because our bodies are vulnerable to these forces. Next. Again, no death or serious injury is acceptable. As a society, we cannot accept even a single traffic death or injury. Now, again, as I said, this does not mean tomorrow everything will become zero. No, but it's a priority. It's the weightage that we are giving. So we will strive towards zero traffic deaths and serious injuries. Next. And again, this is very important. Road safety strategies have to be proactive, not reactive. Most of the time when an incident happens, again, a few days back, in fact, yesterday there was a bus which crashed in MP, and it was all over the news. Why should it be like that? Why can't we be proactive in nature by finding which are the critical hotspots, which are the black spots, and actively work on why are we waiting for these incidents to happen. Next. This is very interesting and very important. Road safety is a shared responsibility. Right now, if you talk, someone will say it's police which will be responsible, someone will say it's emergency hospital which is responsible for road safety. No, road safety is a shared responsibility. Anyone and everyone who's been involved with infrastructure design, with planning, they are responsible for safety. Now, next slide. Now, this is very interesting. So, if that's the philosophy, what are the action areas? And some of these action areas you might be aware because they also resonate with traditional road safety approach, but some you will find it slightly different because they are traditionally not linked to road safety approaches. So there are 8 action areas which a developing country like India should focus on. Next slide. The first one, land use planning. It's very unfortunate that in none of the road safety plans or planning strategies that an urban planner or land use planner is part of the conversation, where we clearly know that disjointed land use planning will result in longer distance travel, more travel, which will be not conducive for safety. And so if you look at the next, which has a graph, it really links as vehicle kilometer traveled on one side versus annual traffic fatalities on the other side. So there is a very strong linkage that the more the people travel in a city, in a country, the more is the propensity of them meeting a traffic crash. So land use planning is one. And this is the next slide, which is street design. And this is very interesting because we believe that safety can be inculcated by design. And especially when you come to urban areas, you have to design streets, not the highways. So what is an urban street, right? Now, this is a complete street, what it looks like in urban areas, where you have spaces for public transport, space for walking, space for cycling, space for other activities, and there is also a space for safe movement of motor vehicle. And that is a very different way from how we design our highways. Next, this is also very strong road safety strategies is what are the mobility options? And again, there is strong empirical evidence and data which shows that high mass transit usage has a positive impact on road safety. So the more people, let us say, use public transport instead of driving, the safer they are. So we have to develop mobility options in cities so that it can also be a part of the road safety strategy. Next, this is probably the most important, but the most difficult. It is the most easy in terms of doing it, but politically and administratively, the most difficult part is how do you address safety? So a lot of times cities talk about increasing speed limits, but increasing speed limits has a direct linkage to increasing road traffic deaths. In fact, in last year around the same time, the Stockholm Declaration, which was signed by all the countries, had, I think, point 13 or point 12 specifically mentioned that in cities, the streets which have activities, multiple usage, different kinds of vehicles, different kinds of usage, those streets shall not be designed, planned, or enforced for speed in excess of 30 kilometers per hour. Now, which means that most of our city street, barring few bypasses, are to be first planned, second designed, and third regulated for speed not excess of 30 kilometers per hour. But look at what we are doing. We are having speeds of 50, 60, 70, 80, and people are driving. So next slide, the reason why they are saying this is important is the fact that if a car hits a pedestrian at 30 kilometers per hour, the chances of dying are only 10%. If the same car hits the pedestrian at 50 kilometers per hour, which is the legal limit, the chances of survival are almost 15%. Now imagine what happens if a bus hits a pedestrian or a truck hits a pedestrian, right? That's the reason why it's saying. So there's a big campaign around the world going on. 20 is plenty. 20 meaning 20 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour as the maximum speed limits in our cities. But again, these are for cities, not for highways. Next, please. So the other important thing is enforcement. And one is to create laws and regulations which can address some of the high risk factors like speeding, licensing, seatbelts, drunken driving. But more importantly, how can we enforce this in a systematic manner so that people do get the best out of it? Next is again the whole issue of education and capacity building. But education and capacity building have to be linked with other things. Only doing education or only doing one week a year to tell people value safety, no one is going to value safety like this. Education and capacity building have to be linked with infrastructure, have to be linked with enforcement. Only then it gives the desired results. But it also means education and capacity building of system planners, system engineers, law enforcement officers. What's their role in road safety? And that is also important. Next, please. Now, again, since we also need better vehicles, we also need better technology. So how can we create vehicles which are safe? Vehicles with minimum safety specifications like seat belts, airbags, electronic stability, so on and so forth, including some of the assisted technologies which have come for two-wheelers are important parameters for safety. Next. And this is the 8th action item, which is post-crash emergency care. Is that, let us say, one, we don't want the crashes to happen. When the crashes happens, if at all, the severity should be less. And let us say, even if that happens, how can we address this? So these are 8 important action areas which the safe systems approach talks about, which we have to look at. And again, my next slide will be my last slide, is that, which is, we have a guidebook called Sustainable and Safe, which looks at these examples or these principles and also talks about how can these examples be replicated in developing countries, with some great examples coming from Latin America, which I think you should try. It's free, you can download and look through it. But it does talk about how can Vision Zero or safe system approach be implemented so as to get the desired result. So with this, I will end, but happy to take any questions if you have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amit. So I would request all the attendees to check if there is any question. You can use chat box or Q&A section. You can wait for a minute, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if people don't have question, then there are only two things. Either they have understood everything or they have understood nothing. So I don't know what is in this case.
Amit, we have Professor Ajit Kumar Chaturvedi, our director present. He has joined the event.
Hello, sir. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Amit. Hello. Thank you for this presentation. I joined towards the end. I could see your last 2 slides.
Okay, so my slides are with Harpreet in case you want to look at it again.
So there is a comment which says, I have understood everything. I saw a comment. Vidit Baya.
I say someone is raising a hand, so maybe I can ask them to speak. Krishna Das, if you have something to share, you can please speak.
Yeah. Hello, Amit sir. Sir, my question is actually when you are scrolling explaining the slides, I didn't get the point actually. Could you please explain me brief about land use planning? I don't know the topic. I think I
Okay.
haven't heard about this before. Yeah.
So let me explain a little more why land use planning is important for road safety. So Mumbai, as you know, it's a megapolis with a population of 1.5 crore, records about close to 450 deaths per year, road traffic deaths. Gurugram, which is almost a 15th of its size, records almost 450 road traffic deaths per year. Now, the big difference between these two cities is higher usage of public transport and lower triplets. Because Mumbai is high density mixed land use development. The bulk of the travel happens on suburban train and buses. Car usage is almost 5 to 6%. Whereas Gurgaon is on the other side. Everyone mostly drives to work. Public transport is minimal and the distances traveled are longer. So the point I was trying to make that if you have cities which have mixed use, dense development, there is a positive impact on road safety because a lot of people would be traveling less and they will be using slightly safer modes of transport as against cities which have sprawl development and single use vehicles. So again, if you compare, let us say, Barcelona with Atlanta in US, these two cities have same amount of population, same economic base, but the difference in road traffic death is almost 10 times. Because in Atlanta, everyone uses car to travel, whereas in Barcelona, everyone walks, cycles, or uses public transport. So that's what I'm trying to make, that the importance of land use in safety is by creating spaces which are safer by design. That is what land use does. Hope you got my point.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So I guess we have one more question in the chat box that I will read it out. We see number of fatalities is high in India, but can we say that the country is performing well in terms of fatalities per registered number of vehicles?
It's a very good question. In fact, this was the first question initial questions which I encountered when I started working on national road safety policy. So when I looked at the absolute number, we are doing very bad. When I looked at numbers per 100,000 population, we are doing very bad. The moment I started looking numbers with vehicle, then we started doing very good. Now we have to understand that vehicle ownership is just one parameter. But if you are doing well in road safety, then the absolute number of road traffic deaths is a great mark, whether you are doing good or bad. So for example, Delhi in last 6 years has recorded an absolute reduction of road traffic death, almost 10 to 12% year on year. So 6 years back, they were about 2,000 deaths per year in Delhi, and now they are close to 1,550 deaths per year. So every year they are seeing an absolute reduction. So absolute number is one use. But if you are trying to compare two different cities with two different population, then fatalities per 100,000 population is a great statistic. Many times statistics are can be misleading, and linking it with vehicle is a misleading statistic, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. We have one more question in Q&A. What's your take on Elon Musk's boring company? Can building underground tunnels reduce traffic and increase road safety?
Now, again, since the question is about boring companies, so I don't think the question should be that exciting. But nevertheless, I think the question is, it really revolves on what will you do with the tunnel. And as far as I know, the tunnel was used to transport cars in a manner that there is no friction and then they can travel at a higher speed. Now, if that is the vision, then we already have such tunnels in India. So many cities already have underpasses, which are nothing but tunnels, right? And we have seen, so if your tunnel is used to develop public transport, yes, it will have positive impact. So tunnel is only used for using private vehicles, then I don't think what is the great difference between, let us say, an underpass, which is nothing but a tunnel. Already many underpasses exist in our cities. Many have very bad safety records.
Okay, so we have one more question that has been sent to me privately. That is, what type of approach we use to reduce the accidents in the congested cities, as due to congestion, speed is very less?
Exactly. I think it's a very good question. So if you look at many cities, probably only recording the road traffic deaths will give you an indication, but the actual indication may also come when you also start stamping the time of these incidents. And that's where you'll realize that some of these serious injuries and fatal injuries actually happen when congestion is not there, which means early morning or late night. Which also means many cities, this is the time when heavy vehicles are also allowed to enter and leave the city. So yes, some amount of congestion is good. Yes, reducing speed is good. We have to understand that congestion is not there 24 hours a day. There are times when congestion is less, and that's where the scenario is also very bad. And again, this is very important for us to understand, because when we talk about reducing speed, everyone talks about how will I travel to my office. But remember, even in Delhi, with 21% of area under road, the peak hour speed is less than 20 kilometers per hour. So when bulk of the people are traveling, you are not traveling at 50, 60 kilometers per hour. You're traveling at 15, 16, 17 kilometers per hour. So reducing speed will not impact your journey time, because in any ways you are under congestion. What it does is off-peak speed will be regulated, and that's what we try to do with speed reduction.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your answers. We may take more questions at the end as well. So now moving ahead, I would like to invite Professor Jeet Kumar Chaturvedi, Director IIT Roorkee, to address the attendees with his words of enlightenment and wisdom.
It's a month-long event that is coming to an end today, and our NSS team led by Professor Achyuta Gulati, with help from Professor Manoranjan Parida and Professor Pushpa Chaudhary, have been able to sustain this momentum for a month-long period. I think that is something that is not easy to achieve. And kudos to this team that even on the last day, they could arrange such a wonderful lecture by Mr. Amit Bhatt. Because if you can do this day after day, if you can do this week after week, of course, there were only 4 webinars, I think, and there were different contests. There were ideathons, and then there was competitions. And I think today prizes will be given. But the amount of planning that would have gone into designing a program for 1 month must be immense. And I'm told that Professor Parida, Professor Pushpa Chaudhary, all of the experts in transport safety and transport planning in our institute, they have helped the team NSS team in organizing this event. And it is a matter of joy that somehow IIT Roorkee is able to sustain this year after year. And thanks to that for NSS team. Sometimes some event starts and then you see that within a couple of years or after 1 year it sort of fades away. But the awareness about road safety, awareness about traffic issues, awareness about the need to understand this better, need to make people aware of this, it can never be overemphasized. And our NSS team does it year after year. That is very, very sort of heartwarming. I would only say that as I was listening to Mr. Bhatt, that awareness is definitely one of the very key issues on which we are definitely making a very good impact. In fact, our safety office has also joined hands in one or two events with NSS to be able to organize the week-long safety efforts, safety awareness campaigns. But I was thinking that as an institute of technology, with help from people like Mr. Amit Bhatt and other professionals, can we scale this one more step beyond awareness? Because awareness is for everybody. It's important for me. It is important for school-going children. It is important for somebody who is not in an IIT. It is important for somebody who's retired. It is important for somebody who's fresh, youth, everybody. But then there is a class of people who are engineers, who are managers, who are sociologists, who are psychologists, who understand this space better than others. And I'm reminded of the fact that the moment anybody goes on the wheel, that means when you are driving a car or when you're driving a scooter, I think you forget these awareness things. What comes is your instinct. What comes your training, your behavioral pattern, the kind of responses that you are accustomed to. And so that means that awareness is one important step, but more steps are required. For example, technology interventions. For example, devising more means by which automobiles can be designed to be safe, and several other things that that can be talked about. And although it is not in the mandate of NSS, but I'm getting a bit greedy here, that can we as an institute go one step ahead without diluting the awareness issue at all. In fact, awareness itself is a very big issue, and we should continue it, scaling it up year after year. No questions about it. Can we go beyond and start doing some designing technological interventions involving humanities and social scientists people, involving our management studies people, and of course our transportation divisions in civil engineering or the Center for Transportation Safe Systems, all these different experts and students. In fact, NSS team would take note of that there are several masters and PhD thesis and including BTech projects that are being done in this space in IIT Roorkee. Forget anywhere outside. Now, can we dip into those theses or the projects, and can we sort of make more people aware of the results out of that, so that people start thinking more along analytical lines, more along solution lines, more along what I can do for this as an engineer or as a manager or as a social scientist, to make sure that the number of deaths is coming down. Imagine a capital city having 1,500 annual deaths because of traffic safety alone. That's a huge number. And 7 years back, it was 2,000. So I think this number has to come down to as low as possible. I mean, any number is not acceptable here, because I mean, we are all on the road. We are all aware of road safety. Then where do we go wrong? I don't think the lives we have lost, the precious lives we have lost, they were not aware of road safety. They were probably aware of road safety, but either their behavioral issue was involved or something else, by which we could not prevent those lives. and the amount of havoc that it creates in the family, in the entire circle around the person whose life is lost. Maybe he is a breadwinner, she is a breadwinner, and in that case, the amount of misery that happens is just unthinkable. And if the number is so huge in one city, imagine the number across the country. And I don't know whether most of our statistics in this space will probably not be covering everything. Maybe the reality may be even worse. I mean, it can be even more than this, because statistics and data collection needs improvement at every level. So with these words, I would like to congratulate Professor Rachita Gulati for having led this very valiantly and with full of energy and vigor, and the entire team, Harkirat and the others, that you all have been doing this despite the end term exams and despite the new beginning and the problems associated with the online semester. But we have still been able to sustain it. We have still been able to do it, and do it rather well. So congratulations to all involved, and hope that next year we'll see even better. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Professor Chaturvedi, for your kind words. And surely, I hope next year it would be much better and better. We will grow, take this initiative step ahead from the awareness to the technical and analytical solutions. So moving ahead, as part of this program, I would be now sharing the winners of different competitions which were organized as a part of this month, along with sharing some, you can say, a flashback of what events we had, especially those webinars and workshops. So I will be sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, visible.
Okay, so here we celebrated 32nd National Road Safety Month, which was on the theme Sadak Suraksha Jeevan Raksha. The first one was the webinar. The first one was the workshop, on traffic distancing by Hero Motocorp Limited on January 18, where we talk about the traffic distancing, how it is important to maintain a distance of 2 seconds, which is equivalent to 2 feet social distancing in COVID-19. Second was the webinar on forgiving roads, where it was focused on developing the roads which forgive humans for the errors they are making. Falling ahead was the webinar on value life, wherein Miss Leni Rod, she shared her experience of road accidents and how important are the choices we make on road relevant to the safety of not only us, but also the other people on road. Moving ahead was assessing road infrastructure safety risks, where Susie, chairman of Road Safety Foundation, she mentioned about her organization making or assessing the roads for their safety. Next coming up was preventions and countermeasures for distracted driving by Dr. Oscar, where he mentioned that again, humans tend to make error, humans tend to get distracted while driving, and how it's important to inculcate technical solutions to ensure that the driver and the all other citizens or the members on the roads are safe. And currently, on February 17th, at the end of this month, we have this interesting and very exciting webinar from Mr. Amit Bhatt. We did have an interactive session from Marg Mitra team on road accidents and epidemic in India, which Professor Chaturvedi also mentioned the behavioral analysis. We did analyze what is the role of human behavior in overcoming this epidemic in India, that is road accidents. Moving ahead with the announcement of the winners. This we organized weekly quizzes every Saturday. The winners of the quiz 1, which was organized on January 23rd, is Pratyush Kumar from IIT Roorkee itself, bagging first position, and Lakshit from again IIT Roorkee, bagging second position. For quiz 2, which was organized on January 30th, it's Prachi Gupta from KJSIM Mumbai with the first position, and Anshul Bajaj from Mumbai University with the second position. Quiz 3 we had on February 6th. Vidit Baya from Bennett University with the first position, and Ayush Pradhan from ICT Mumbai Odisha campus with the second position. And last and the final quiz was quiz 4 on February 13th. where Ananya Jalka from Manav Rachna University, Faridabad, with the first position, and Abhishek Kumar Patra, DIT Misra, Ranchi, with the second position. So I would like to congratulate all the winners of these quizzes and hope they would have also learned something while giving these quizzes. Moving ahead, we will also organize a case study competition in association with Safe India organization on the topic Good Samaritan law. This is a law which was enforced by the government, which says like if you are helping a person who is injured, who got injured in road accidents, you will not be subject to trial or to the police inspection, or you will not be accused of any other, you can say, under the criminal laws. So there is a less awareness regarding this law, and the case study focused on that, tackling this lack of awareness. First position was backed by Shubham from IIT Roorkee, second from Srishti Singh from SVNIT Surat. Ideathon competition was organized on the theme Provisions on Accessible India for the Disabled Population. When we say we will talk about road safety, road accidents, we also need to talk about the accessibility issues and inclusiveness. And on this Ideathon, we had winners Alokma Pandey from IIT Roorkee in the first position, Aditi Jain and Kunal Dutt from IIM Kozhikode in the second position, and Kritika from IIT Roorkee in the third position. Once again, I would say congratulations to all these winners. Again, for poster making competition and poetry competition, we have the first position of Satyan Kumar Sahu, IIT Tirupati. Second position to the Aisha Pandey from Baksij English Medium School, and it's very interesting that she is a school student and participated here. Third was Vinay Kumar Pandey from NITIE Mumbai. And for poetry competition, first is Nikhil, second is Rashi Singh, third is Archana Kumari, Rashi and Archana from IIT Roorkee itself. Following that, we also organize these competitions not only online for other students, but specifically for students of CBRE government school, wherein we had Manisha from 8th class, Nisha from 6th class, Anjali from 6th, Ema from 8th, Kishan Kumar from 7th, Anju from 6th, and Imanshu from 7th class, bagging the corresponding first to 7th position in this poster making competition. And in poetry competition, we had Manisha from 6th class and Aryan from 6th class, bagging first and second position respectively in these competitions. And these are few glimpses, and I think it's important to inculcate the awareness regarding road safety in the school children so that they can learn from the beginning itself, which can be kept in their mind for their lifetime. Moving ahead, we did organize these competitions again for Anushruti Academy for the deaf students. Harshit from 6th, Shruti Dhiman from 10th, Arushi from 3rd, Ikram Malik from 9th, and Tarun Singh from 3rd classes bagging their corresponding first two competitions, but for two different languages, English and Hindi. For English, we have Abhinav Gautam, Priyanka from 9th, Rohit from 1st, Tamreen from 4th, Ashka Gupta from 6th, bagging their first two 5 positions correspondingly. For poetry competition in Hindi, we had Azim from 5th class, Alina Khan from UKG, Ayushman from UKG, Tapasya from UKG, and Adnan from 8th class, bagging the first two 5th position respectively. These are few glimpses. Before moving ahead, I would like to again congratulate all these winners, and along with the winners, those who actually judge these entries, be it case study, be it ideathon, be it these poster making or poetry competitions. I would like to thank all the judges as well for, you can say, being evaluating these submissions and letting us know the results so that we can felicitate these winners. But again, concluding here with my presentation, what next for NSS IIT Roorkee? We worked on various healthcare initiatives throughout the year, like on World Mental Health Day in October 2020, World Antimicrobial Awareness Week in November 2020, and right now ending up with this National Road Safety Month in January to February 2021. But what ahead? So we are taking a step forward and bringing up with our annual social festival, National Social Summit on the theme envisioning better healthcare evolution. The last year has taught us the importance of healthcare, and I think, and my whole team, my whole NSS team also think it's the better and it's the best to dedicate this edition to the healthcare and think about what kind of evolution we expect from the healthcare sector in the upcoming Yes. So with that, and concluding now, I do have an introductory video for Summit, but I think we are short on time there. So now I would like to invite Professor Mukesh Barua, Dean of Students Welfare, IIT Roorkee, for giving us closing remarks.
Thank you, Harkirat. At the outset, I would like to thank entire NSS team for organizing a month-long program. I thank Professor Parida, Professor Gori Shetty, Professor Chaturvedi, and all the speakers who participated in this program. And last but not the least, Mr. Amit Bhatt. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time. As you rightly pointed out, that number of deaths in India are really too high. In fact, it's a researchable topic, how much GDP we are losing because of these deaths. If we able to stop these deaths, let's say by 25%, I hope that our GDP would increase by at least 0.5 percentage point. So, of course, there are n number of reasons for deaths, but awareness is one of them, and I am very happy that NSS did this program, and I hope that in future NSS team would continue doing such programs, and they would bring in more and more agencies and government bodies, NGOs on the platform. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Professor Barua. So with this, we are concluding this month-long celebrations of 32nd National Road Safety Month. I would like to thank Professor G. Chaturvedi, Director IIT Roorkee, Professor Ranjan Parida, Deputy Director IIT Roorkee, Professor Mukesh Barua, Dean of Students Welfare, Professor Anil Kumar Gauri Shetty, Associate Dean of Students Welfare, Professor Rachita Gulati, a Faculty Advisor, NSS IIT Roorkee, Professor Pushpa Chaudhary, Mr. Amit Bhatt, and all the different speakers, participants, attendees, and judges for evaluating their submissions, for being a part of this month-long initiative, and hopefully we would have, you can say, played a very important role in increasing the awareness. So thank you once again, and we are looking forward to much more initiatives in future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.